Yeah, you heard me correctly. I think Jujutsu Kaisen is fucking stupid. Stupidly fucking awesome and hype as hell. Holy. Yeah, that's right. You've been clickbaited, motherfuckers. We're gonna talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, finally. Before we get into all that, happy 2024, by the way. As you're seeing this is the first video I'm finally recording for the new year. I've been enjoying the time off, but it's time to get back into the grind. Of course, we're gonna start with this clickbait video. That's not an omen for what's to come, I promise. This is just funny. But we're doing this now because I just got off of finally going through the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 and... oh man. It's one of those ones where I was watching and I was just like, should I have maybe done a reaction series to this? I remember when Season 2 was starting, I was like, do I want to hop on and start doing week-to-week shit? But then I was just like, Jujutsu Kaisen is like Demon Slayer for me. It's like, I wanted it to all be done so that I can just go through it all and just have it all to be there and watch. So yeah, that's pretty much what this video is gonna be. Mainly, we're gonna be talking about Season 2, because I haven't really had the chance to yet. I haven't at all talked about Jujutsu Kaisen in its entirety. So this will kind of be the chance, so we'll kind of talk about Season 1 stuff as well, but again, it's mainly just gonna be Season 2, and also the different stuff with, like, of course, the movie Jujutsu Kaisen 0, and then, of course, Season 1 as well. Before we get too deep into anything, first and foremost, my audio is not mixed correctly. There we go. Everyone out there, we need to start giving more praise to the animators of these shows. Specifically to Jujutsu Kaisen, but just in general. We need to stop giving praise to the studios themselves. MAPPA deserves zero praise for this show, other than the fact that they are continuing to create it. But the true heroes behind this show are the animators. Considering the fact that it's like, not only are they doing Jujutsu Kaisen, it's like they're still doing, from what I understand, One Punch Man Season 3, Chainsaw Man, which is getting a movie this year. Obviously, these animators are not being treated the way that they should be treated, not getting paid nearly as much as they should be. But even still, the animators at MAPPA need to know that they are loved and appreciated, especially over here in the West. I continuously go down to each of these episodes, and I go in the comments, and of course the top comment is always something like, the animators deserve all the praise, especially for this season, dude. Like, Season 1 was fucking phenomenal. Obviously the movie was really good, but this season there was not one episode where I was just like, the animation was a little ugh. There was always at least one moment where it was just like, holy fucking 60 FPS action, what the hell. Again, not only just for MAPPA's animators, but just like, you know, Ufotable's animators, Bones animators, every animation studio's animators. Even if the animation for the show that they're making isn't the greatest, they still deserve the praise, because these people don't get to see their families often, probably. But with that, now let's get into talking about some Jujutsu Kaisen goodness. I figured I'll just go through the beginning of Season 2 and just figure it out from there, because again, I don't script my videos, so I don't really know how I'm going to talk about this, but I'm just going to talk and we'll figure it out from there. It's interesting how the progression of Jujutsu Kaisen is, because it's like, we have Season 1, and then there's Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which is a prequel to all that, which takes place in the year prior to that, with, of course, Yuta and some stuff with Geto, the March of the 1,000 Demons or whatever it was called. And then we have Season 2, which takes place years before even that. We have this, then we have a prequel, then we have a prequel to the prequel. Because when I first heard, like, oh, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is going to start with a Gojo and Geto prequel thing, I was like, is that going to be the whole season? Or, which it wasn't. But I'm going to be honest, watching those first 6 episodes, I was like, if they wanted to do a whole season of just this, I would have been fine with it. Because I found myself watching it, just seeing both Gojo and Geto and a bunch of these other characters that we've met before, just in their younger years. I found myself being like, I don't really want to go back to Itadori and all of them. It's like, how the season progresses, it makes sense showing that Gojo wasn't immediately born as OP as he was. I mean, he was to an extent, like, he had the power, but he didn't have, you know, the skill set yet, the experience. He still needed to learn how to use it. Some heartfelt stuff, because like, you see that Gojo and Geto, it's like they were fairly close, because it's kind of funny, because like there's scenes where they almost start butting heads and nearly fighting. It's like, because it's like an omen of the future. But obviously you can tell they were friends, but there's a thing there where it's like they weren't necessarily close. Again, they were more rivals than anything, which, I mean, still fits. Again, going back to Gojo, it all ultimately culminates in his fight with names. Toji, that's it. You'll never know how long it took me to find that name. But yeah, it leads to his fight with Toji, who is Megumi's father, which is cool because like it ultimately sets up like when Gojo eventually goes and finds Megumi and why he ultimately saves him. Dude, Toji's a fucking goon, bruh. By all accounts, Toji killed Gojo because he fights Gojo and then he later fights Geto. There was a part of me that was like, I think I liked his fight with Geto more, at least from just a visual standpoint. I mean, it was cool because obviously we got to see Gojo use blue, which we've seen him use red and purple, but we've never seen him use blue. You figure out his power where it's like red is like the repelling or whatever, and then blue is like attracting, and purple is the mixture of those two things, you know, that whole physics thing. Yeah, it's just with Gojo, it's like, you know what he's gonna do in the fight pretty much, because, you know, he's a really good like hand-to-hand fighter, but like you also know it's just like he has infinity, so like things can't really touch him, which is why obviously going into his fight with Toji, it's like, how is he gonna counter that? Which, I mean, ultimately he does. But then again, you have to remember, of course, this isn't Gojo when he's at his utmost powerful. It's not until we see him later in the story. He kills Gojo, like brutally kills him. And let's say he stabs him here and then he like slices him all the way down. He like stabs him in the leg. I will say this season was absolutely way more brutal than the last season for a multiple of different reasons, which we'll get into later. But also just like from a gore standpoint, it's like with blood and even guts and shit later, it's like fucking hell, they really stepped it up. They learned from Chainsaw Man. Gojo in this first part, it's literally Buck from Ice Age 3. So did you die? Sadly, yes. But I lived. I like how that scene is portrayed. Toji like sees him as just like, this dude is high off his mind right now. He's like using cursed energy in such a way. That is the one complaint I have with Jujutsu Kaisen, is just the way it explains stuff sometimes. It doesn't have to be that deep. You can have it just be like, oh, he used the energy to restore himself in some way. But like the way they describe it's like he used this and combined it with this and then like with this, but because it was like this certain time of day or whatever, it's like I can respect having lore and powers that have a lot of detail to them, in which it's like, yeah, it makes sense because it explains. It's pretty much like their way of trying to work around, just like, see, it's not broken because there's established shit. I don't know. Just me, who has a very simple brain when it comes to stuff, and I just watch shit for mainly the action and ooga booga fights. Though I can understand most of it, a lot of the times if it takes longer than like 10 seconds to explain something that happened in 1 second, chances are I'm just gonna be like, yep, I just take it for what it is. And then of course the other side of this whole like prequel stuff is Geto's side of things, which really surprisingly, looking at it all, it was ultimately Todo's teacher who kind of sent Geto on his life path. Their conversation they had where she was just like, there's two paths a Jujutsu sorcerer could take in trying to cure the world or whatever. We can remove all curses from the world, or we could remove all non-sorcerers from the world. And of course we know what path Geto takes, but it's just interesting that that's the conversation. It's like he was already like spiraling, like you could see him. It's like Geto just like he wasn't sleeping before he even graduated. It was already like, yep, Gojo's the most powerful sorcerer in the world. And then it just ultimately leads to Geto. He just finally snaps, but it's interesting because like you see him so like frowning and sullen and sunken, but then like his point where he snaps, he then is smiling and then is like, yep, I'm gonna kill all the monkeys. It's just kind of interesting though, because there was one point when Gojo finally confronts Geto and he's just like, you could kill me right now. But of course, Gojo doesn't do that. There's still that part of him that's like, you're my friend. But then it's interesting going into later stuff, because at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen 0, Geto dies. But as we see in season 1, and then also in here season 2, Geto's still walking around. He has a scar on his head. But as it's finally confirmed in this season, there's a spirit that's pretty much I keep saying spirit, a curse that's puppeting Geto's body and using his power. I didn't know how to feel about that. I kind of would have preferred it, honestly, if it was just Geto found a way through like one of his curses or something that he achieved maybe eternal life or something. It just seems kind of weird that you have this character who has such a history with Gojo and whatnot, and then you just have him die. We'll keep his body, but the villain inside is a completely different character. But yeah, he kind of acts similarly to Geto. Why even take him out? I talked about earlier, I was just like, I don't know, I kind of would have preferred it maybe if this whole season was just like a backstory season, but then once we picked back up with Itadori and Megumi and Nobara and all them going into the Shibuya incident arc, I was like, yeah, it's good to have the gang back together. Also, the title of this arc being the Shibuya incident, it makes it sound like, oh, something happened, it wasn't too major. Bro, This wasn't the Shibuya incident, dog. This was the Shibuya war, bro. This was the Shibuya Holocaust. Incident makes it sound like, oopsie, something happened that wasn't supposed to happen, which, I mean, it did, but it was a lot of some things. I'm going to get some shit for this comparison, but this arc, it was the war arc from My Hero Academia equivalent. This could have been viewed as like the final battle arc, but obviously the villains get away and there's the heroes, they suffer this huge loss to both just people that die, but also to society, because now they view them as villains. It's literally that, because even where Itadori is left by the very end, it's like he's lost friends, he was fighting constantly, he's just left battered and broken by the end, and then you jump forward a bit, he's scarred, but yet he's ready to go into the fight. There is a comparison to be made there, but yeah, just going into this Shibuya incident arc. I mean, I'm not alone in saying this, but the phrase, "you are my special," I think is gonna haunt us forever now. Well, obviously, if you haven't watched the show, why are you watching this video? But the opening for this arc, "You are my special," which is always kind of funny, because like, even if you hit the skip intro button, you would still hear that part. This was the longest arc in the whole series. Yeah, pretty much from episode 8 all the way to 23, which justifiably, again, this arc was a war more than anything. I'm not too familiar with the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. Thankfully, I've stayed spoiler-free for the most part. The one thing I do know is that when it comes to the ending, I know that people are mixed on it. I know there's some people who are just like, yeah, it's like Attack on Titan as well, from what I've heard. You either love it or you don't. I don't know how far we are from the ending. I'm gonna assume we're at the very least still a good 2 or 3 seasons away from the end. Again, the biggest thing, obviously, going to the very beginning, is Gojo is taken out of play at the very beginning, which, I mean, that was the whole point. I think is also like the biggest theme with this whole arc is how society has relied so much on Gojo being the strongest sorcerer. The fact that he's so strong that when he's actually defeated, they're like, wait, what? What do you mean he was defeated? Like, he can't be defeated. What do you mean? Which is, again, it's cool going from, like, the prequel stuff at the beginning of this season to now where it's like, yeah, it cements just Gojo's power and all that. It's like, obviously, he wasn't killed yet, but, like, he was captured. He was imprisoned. The way that went, though, I thought was really cool. Biggest thing I'll say, not Geto, but, you know, the spirit controlling Geto's body. He loses all his homies in this arc, man. Gojo starts out where he's fighting both Jogo and Hanami, which is cool, because it's like they're established villains by this point who we've seen fight and we know their abilities. But then we go against someone like Gojo, he fucking obliterates Hanami instantly. And then the most interesting part was seeing like the spirits, like they used the people many times throughout this arc, like them using the citizens just as shields or weapons. And then the coolest part was when they unleashed like all these curses. And then it's the thing where the only way Gojo could stop both us, the special grades, and just all those normal grades is if he uses his domain expansion. But if he does, then all these people here are gonna die. That's also a thing. It's like if he doesn't do it, then they're gonna die anyway. So, you know, that weight of conscience, it's like, what's he gonna do? And then that cool moment where Gojo, he does the domain expansion, but he doesn't fully unleash it. He does it for like 2/100ths of a second or something. It just wipes out all of the curses. Of course, going into that, I'm just like, I feel like Gojo would have like control over the domain and to some extent. Like, again, he's the most powerful sorcerer. One of the coolest but also most terrifying moments was like when he finally killed them all, and then he had that moment where he paused and he was just panting, which it may seem simple, but like that's huge considering the kind of character he is. We've never seen him like that before. Just by doing that, the villains won. I was expecting them at some point, like maybe Gojo's gonna pull something and break out, but the entire rest of the season, Gojo is imprisoned. You don't even see him again, like even from inside the thing. But I mean, there is a cool thing, like when he's in prison, that he has that moment where he's just like, damn, this sucks. Well, the rest of you are up. It's cool, like he's putting faith in them. Going into the rest of this arc, which pretty much was Itadori's time to shine. I mean, for the first bit, there was a couple other characters, obviously, that were doing their stuff. Of course, the classic Nanami meme where he was beating the shit out of that one guy. It all starts when Itadori starts fighting Choso, which I've seen some shit like leading into this arc where so many people were like, yep, Itadori versus Choso was fight of the year. which from just like a hand-to-hand aspect, yes, I would definitely say it was, in terms of like, you know, the martial arts and just, again, the hand-to-hand choreography. Oh yeah, it's some of the best, not even just in this series, but honestly, some of the best I've just ever seen. But in terms of fucking best fights, are we forgetting the later fight with Sukuna? We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, going back to Itadori versus Choso, I mean, that's when shit really starts to go down, because, again, those are my favorite kind of fights, where it actually is a fight, and that's where I can accept the argument that this was the best fight, which, yeah, because it actually was a fight. It's a fight where there's actual back and forth. Even though pretty much for the most part, Choso, he took way less damage than Itadori did. I mean, Choso is a pretty interesting character. I mean, he kind of seemed just kind of like a throwaway thing at one point. I mean, he ties back to the two brothers that Itadori and Nobara killed at the end of season 1. He's the older brother of those two. His ability was really cool as well, because like he manipulates blood or whatever, which we've seen. But ultimately, he shoots Itadori through the heart, and then Sukuna takes over, which is really cool. I think Sukuna has never been more terrifying than in this season. You know, obviously when he first showed up, and then like he had his quick fight with Gojo, pretty much showing that, oh yeah, he's not even close to ready to fighting Gojo yet. But after this season, God, I can't wait for those two to have a rematch. But then again, I feel like I know how that's gonna end. He just comes out, and then he fights Jogo. Yeah. So Jogo is dead, right? You know, with some of these curses, it's hard to tell sometimes, because, you know, they can regenerate and whatnot. But with the way everything goes, I think it's safe to assume, at least for now, that Jogo is dead. I love the part as well where he was just like, are you not going to use your domain expansion? And then he's just like, oh, it's because you found out with when you fought Gojo, your domain can be negated with a more powerful domain, which obviously mine is. But then Sukuna does something interesting. He fights Jogo's flames with his own flames, which of course is that really awesome shot, which of course we've seen everywhere by this point. Which the way I looked at that is, so he can copy abilities, or at least kind of put his own spin on them. He created a flame powerful enough to kill a flame curse. A curse who earlier literally summoned a meteor. Sukuna's fight with Jogo was just disrespectful. But not that Jogo doesn't deserve it, but that then leads into absolutely the best spectacle of animation I think that's ever been made. Which episode was it? Yeah, it was season 2, episode 41, Thunderclap Part 2, which is just so casually giving it the title of Part 2. Dog. It gave me vibes of Mob Psycho Season 2, Mob versus Mogami. That fight, just because like you also had the shrinking of the aspect ratio, and just the fucking scale of it. Holy shit. I thought I've already gone past the point where animation, I mean, obviously I could still recognize when animation's really good, but to the point where it literally just leaves me awestruck. I thought I was past that. Nah. This was absolutely the episode where me and just everyone else in the comments just like, yeah, Mappa animators deserve a million times more respect than what they're given. I mean, obviously watch all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Like at this point, I'm not even saying that just like as a normie thing. Jujutsu Kaisen is just fucking good, especially this season, dog. Just going off of like season 1 and 0, you could say like, yeah, it's good and it's definitely cemented its place in like a new age of anime and shonen, but season 2, dog, this changes everything. And again, just that fight between Sukuna and that like pale curse, words cannot even describe it. How can they get even better? The show already looked fucking phenomenal, but it got even better somehow. That's mainly why I had to make this video, is just that one fight. I mean, obviously there's still more, but I mean, because that's why I won't say it was my favorite fight this season. I'd say I definitely still give it to Itadori versus Choso. Like, it's more of a fight. This is like a clash of gods, and that just leaves like this chunk and crater in Shibuya. The saddest part is when Sukuna switches back to Itadori, and then like he switches back to him and makes him look at the crater, and he just like breaks down and like vomits and stuff. It's just like, damn. It makes you realize just this whole stuff with like Geto and all that. It's like Sukuna doesn't care about that. I mean, obviously, because he killed Jogo and like all these other people. It's interesting having like this villain like slowly being built up, and you forget that he's there. I mean, he's always there. He's inside of Itadori. That's gonna be the end game. And of course, like the whole thing with Sukuna and Megumi, he takes an interest in him. It's just like, I need you to stay alive because I have plans for you. It's easily the best piece of animation animation, that fight. But then going into the rest of the season, because even after watching that episode, I'm like, how is there still 8 episodes left? I'm honestly glad I didn't watch this week to week. Yeah, I needed to just see all this in its entirety, but then we lead into like the biggest like fights in this. Mahito, the bastard. It's like Mahito obviously was like the biggest dick coming out of season 1 with just that whole Junpei thing. But then in this season, he does even more. Well, I mean, first of all, he kills Nanami. I thought he was gonna do way worse to him. Like, honestly, I'm surprised he didn't Junpei him. Like, they turn him into a curse thing and make him fight Itadori, but he just blew him up. Nanami's death, it was really cool before that. I mean, he literally was like two-faced because he got burned by Jogo, but he just kept going, killing those spirits. And you saw like the flashes of him being like, I'm gonna retire, go to Malaysia. It's like I forgot, like, until Mahito showed up. It's like, oh yeah, they do have history, they fought before. But then of course, like, you know, he waits until right when Itadori shows up, and just like, and then of course Nanami is just like, I leave it to you. But of course Mahito's torturing of Itadori doesn't stop there, because then Nobara shows up and he's just like, oh, you two are close, huh? Nobara is dead. By all accounts she probably should be, but I don't know. Again, I'm not familiar with the manga. She might be dead, she might not be. I don't think she's dead. Honestly, it seemed very abrupt if she was dead. I feel like just out of the 3 of them, Itadori, Megumi, and Nobara, she's had the least time to shine. It just would be such a waste to have her just die at this point. So yeah, I don't think she's dead. But it was just another thing to add on to fucking Itadori's rage towards Mahito. But then of course, before Mahito kills Itadori, fucking Todo shows up. Still, probably overall my favorite fight in all of Jujutsu Kaisen is still Itadori and Todo versus Hanami from season 1. The back and forth with Todo and Itadori, and just like, you know, he's clapping his boogie woogie. It was a big thing with this as well, because much like Gojo, Todo, we've never seen winded or even really take damage or even bleed. But then this fight with Mahito, yeah, Todo bleeds a lot. He loses his hand, like his internal organs like explode. The cool thing I loved was like his little necklace thing. When it opened, it's like, I figured it's like, oh, it's probably gonna have a picture of his idol who he's in love with in it, but then it shows the other side and there's a picture of Itadori in there. It's like, oh man. He calls him brother and he treats him like a brother, but like he actually, like, he means it. It's not just because they're into the same type of woman. My brother. I mean, obviously I don't think Todo's dead, but I mean, fucking hell, he got close. It just kind of sucks because like he shows up and then for like 2 episodes he kicks ass, but then like he gets his ass kicked immediately. And then fucking for like a couple minutes, like Mahito evolves into kind of like this Hanami looking creature, and it's like, did we need that? Because then like Itadori beats the shit out of him for a little bit and he transforms back, and it's like, was there a point in that? I really wish Itadori killed him, or at the very least tortured him a little. It was cool because like, you know, Mahito was like backing away and just like, stay away from me. The monster, fearing a monster, is like Geto absorbs him and gets his power, which was interesting because like Mahito tried to betray him at that last moment, but like it sucks because like you go through all this shit that Mahito's done, he's not gonna pay for it at all. Like he killed Hanami, by all accounts he killed Nobara, he did huge damage to Todo, all the shit he's done to Itadori, Junpei, whatever. But then at the last second to save Itadori, fucking Todo's teacher shows up. I want to see Todo and that teacher interact. I feel like they'll have an interesting relationship, a relationship we never got to see. We also didn't get to see what her power is, because she didn't fight. It's weird how this ends, by the way, because like you see this thing where like everyone's like in the ice and get ready to fight, and then all of a sudden it just cuts to like all these people being like, oh, the damage in Shibuya, these like news clippings and like everyday people, which was cool from like an artistic standpoint, just seeing the everyday person react to what happened. The way all that stuff happened, it's like the principal, it's like he's ordered to be executed because, dude, I fucking hate this world. Granted, it's the wake-up call that the Jujutsu sorcerers have needed, because it's like they've been so high and mighty for so long. They've needed a little humbling, but at the same time, it's like, it's clear who was on the side of humanity during this battle. It's like, oh, the principal's ordered to be executed, Gojo's ordered to be executed, Itadori's prolonged execution is now ordered to be now, and the person ordered to execute him is gonna be Yuta Okotsu, our main boy from Zero, which is cool, because like, you know, we're gonna have the, like those two main characters interacting. But I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be a thing with Yuta. It's like he's gonna try to execute him, but they'll come to some understanding, and then yeah. But then it just ends with that shot of Itadori like fighting a bunch of curses, and then it's just like, till next time. Whatever, like the thing that's already been confirmed, it's like the dead culling arc or whatever that's gonna be. But yeah, I kind of sped through a bunch of stuff at the end, but again, I mainly want to talk about that fucking Sukuna fight and some of the Gojo stuff. But so yeah, at the end of the day, Jujutsu Kaisen, It's fucking stupid. Stupidly fucking awesome. If for whatever reason you've watched this video without watching Jujutsu Kaisen, I've pretty much spoiled everything that happens in season 2. Do with that information as you will, but absolutely fucking watch this show. Again, I know this is the first time I've really talked about Jujutsu Kaisen. Again, I'm mainly just talking about season 2. So overall, what would I give season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen? Well, 10 out of 10, obviously. I mean, animation alone, fucking a million out of 10. But also just like story and like fights and everything wise, characters. I cared, which is a lot, especially for shonen. Well, either way, this was my very long review of, again, mainly season 2, but just talking about Jujutsu Kaisen. I am now very much looking forward to the rest of it. Again, I'm sure I've seen a bunch of things where just like, alright, everyone, see you in probably 2025 with everything else that's gonna be coming out this year. But yeah, in terms of the future for Jujutsu Kaisen, 2025, honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually like 2026. But whatever the future will hold, I will be there for it and probably will visit it in the channel in some form or another. But for now, the book is closed until the foreseeable future of Jujutsu Kaisen. Thank you all for joining me for this review of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. Join me for many other videos of this sort, be they reaction, reviews, gameplay, and everything else that'll be coming out soon. So thank you all for joining me on this. I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching.